Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
What's up, Schmidlifers? Welcome back to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, and this is episode 19 of the podcast. Before I get started, I want to welcome all the new iHeartRadio listeners. You can now listen on the go to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. So welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Today on the show, I'm welcoming back Shirley Weir. You may remember Shirley from episode 9 of the show, where we had an open conversation around menopause. Today, Shirley is going to share with us experiences we may be having with perimenopause, what perimenopause actually is, ways to take ownership of your health care, and how to bring the subject up with your doctor for the results you are wanting. And ladies, even if you feel that you're too young, I hate to break this to you, but after doing the math, we discovered that perimenopause can actually start in your mid to late 30s. For me, I know that I was about 36 when I started having changes in my hormones, and it was just starting to become obvious that something was going on. But I just want to assure you that no matter your age, even if you're postmenopausal, Shirley's passion is to crack open the conversation around menopause and to bring it into the light instead of keeping it hidden as if it's something to be ashamed of. Our conversation is important for yourself, for your sisters, your friends, and for my men listeners, this is a good conversation for you to listen to as well. I want to share, too, that I even used Shirley's tip on speaking to your doctor. I used it at my podiatrist's office this last week. Now, I have a great podiatrist, but I felt that using this tip that Shirley gave me, I was able to have a real holistic conversation around a sprained ankle that just doesn't seem to heal. So when you listen to this, Shirley's tips in this episode can carry over to all areas of your health care. It is really worth a listen. All the links to this show can be found over at midlifeschmidlife.com/menopause. So now let's head on over to the interview. We are in the middle of our Toolbox series, and today I am here with my guest, Shirley Weir. Now, Shirley was on a previous episode, episode 9, where she shared her journey on creating menopausechicks.com. I was so excited when Shirley agreed to come back on and have a discussion with us during the Toolbox series. And today we are going to be talking about how to talk to your doctor when you are going through perimenopause. I know that this is going to be a great conversation. And so, Shirley, I just want to thank you for meeting with me again.
You are most welcome. Thank you, Liz.
So before we kind of dive into this topic, would you mind kind of going through the different phases that a woman goes through in her life, just to kind of get a handle on what perimenopause is?
Absolutely. Well, I think that there are a number of definitions out there. So I'm going to describe the definitions that we use at Menopause Chicks. And there's essentially 4, but before I go through those, I want to point out that menopause is just one day. So often it gets referred to as a life phase, or many doctors, many women might say menopause, but they might mean perimenopause, or they might mean postmenopause. So for menopause chicks, these are the phases. Of course, there's adolescence, and then there's the reproductive stage of our lives. And perimenopause would be the next phase. And that is, could be, it's different for everyone, but it could be the 5 to 15 years leading up to menopause. So that's the phase of your life where your hormones start to fluctuate. And it can start as probably as early as your mid-30s and as late as age 58 or 59. And perimenopause is a relatively new term. It was only coined in the 1990s. And so that's why we find that a lot of practitioners and women and our mothers, maybe our grandmothers, say menopause, but they actually mean perimenopause. Menopause is one day. It's the 12-month anniversary after you haven't had a period for 1 year. So if you don't have a period for 10 months and then it comes back again, you start counting all over again. So yeah,
Right.
there's only one day in your life, and that's menopause. And then everything after that is formally referred to as postmenopause. So I'm postmenopause. I reached menopause earlier this year in 2016 at the age of 49.
Okay. And actually, you threw a party, didn't
I
you?
did. I had an online
Yes.
party. I invented a cocktail. I know
Love it.
it's a little unusual, but I really believe that, there's lots for us to deal with in midlife. But one of those things should be how we're going to celebrate.
Yeah, and I really love that too. I wish I would have known you about 4 or 5 years ago. So, um, because the fact that I feel that, and I know that this was actually part of your experience and why you created Menopause Chicks. Was just the way that society looks at menopause, the way that it's portrayed in the media. I mean, by now we're all supposed to have gray hair and holding fans,
Yes.
and so it doesn't have a very it doesn't have a very positive presence for all of us. So I really appreciate and embrace the fact that you are calling it a time for celebration.
Well, I think that, your podcast, your website, the work that you're doing, Liz, it's so in line with the values of menopause chicks, right? We
Yeah.
we have often challenges, but we can navigate those challenges, and then we can redefine for ourselves what we want perimenopause and menopause to mean and what we want it to bring to our lives.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's an interesting thing too, because I'll tell you, the use of the word midlife. I may have shared this with you. I've reached that stage in my life where I don't remember what stories I've shared with different people, but the term midlife really have a hard time with for the same reason. It has a negative kind of presence, and I have found that even people who would fit into my audience are kind of turned off by it. So I've often wondered if midlife schmidlife, though I'm making fun of it, I have actually heard from people that said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm too young for that." And here we are talking about, you just said that, perimenopause can start 15 years before actual menopause. So, um, the average age is what,
The
51?
average age of menopause is 51.2. And here's the thing: menopause affects 100% of women.
Mhm.
Right? So it's, if you have had the seed planted in your mind by the media or previous conversations that you've had, that there's a get out of jail free card, or that you can reverse it or avoid it or cure it,
Mhm.
you gotta change that mindset. Menopause is, it's one day, but perimenopause, midlife, that's a phase of life, and we're all going to go through it, hopefully, right?
Right.
So that's why I think this conversation is so important.
Yeah. Well, me too. Me too. So if we backtrack from the age 51, 15 years,
Yes.
that's 36.
Yes.
30s, mid 30s women can be experiencing, um and I was going to use the word symptoms,
Mhm.
and you don't use the word symptoms. Would you mind speaking into that a little bit?
Sure. Well, let me start by saying that perimenopause and menopause are not diseases or ailments. Therefore, they don't require treatments or cures. I get very hung up on
Right.
words, right? But I do think that if we can focus on the vocabulary and the language that we use, that will help us redefine and reframe.
Mhm.
And so I try not to use the word symptoms, because symptoms, is associated with disease. That said, there are definitely some concerns and some experiences that women can have in perimenopause that require the support of a healthcare expert, going to see your doctor, for example.
Right.
So for me, and my first signs, if I reflect back, were around the age of 39. I had sore breasts. My period had already started to change somewhat. I had my last child at 36, and I thought, oh, maybe it's different because I had a child in my mid to late 30s. But really, it's your hormones starting to fluctuate and prepare you for menopause. Some of the other experiences that women encounter, and they're very common, is disruption to your sleep,
Mm-hmm.
moodiness, memory changes. We alluded to that. That
Right.
feeling of being tired yet wired, which can relate to hormone fluctuations, and it's also very indicative of today's modern woman
Mm-hmm.
who's working, running a business, running a household, and her hormones are changing.
Right. Right. And that's it's an interesting conversation actually to have because I feel that a lot of these, um, I was going to say symptoms
That's
again.
okay.
A
Say it.
lot of
Say
these,
it.
a lot of these experiences that women have, it's really hard to determine, is this perimenopause? Is this stress? There's just the world that we live in, I feel, kind of magnifies that anyway. I mean, if we're stressed, we're going to have trouble sleeping, right? I mean, well, not everyone. I do. So, um, I feel like a lot of these can be kind of difficult, but just starting to pay attention, I think, to the frequency that you're having them. Um, and not really dismissing them. I think as women, we kind of think, "Oh, just have to get through this and go on, take care of what I need to take care of."
Yeah, there's a line that says, it's not menopause that fascinates me, it's what women are willing to put up with.
Mhm. Wow.
And that
That's
really,
great.
landed for me because, yeah, you're right. So I guess the message that we want to give out is, you don't have to suck it up and
Mm,
you don't have to suffer in silence. And it's a very wide bucket of experiences that we're talking about here, right?
mhm.
Is it a mild change to your period, or is it excessive
Right,
bleeding that, leaves you housebound and affects your quality of life,
right.
right?
And I was in that bucket, unfortunately, and it hit me. I don't wanna say it hit me, but that's what it felt
Yeah.
like. It hit me, probably 36, 37, maybe. So I was definitely in my mid-30s. When I think about it, I think I was about 36. And the change in my menstrual flow it was horrendous. I swear that it happened in a night. Like, I
Right.
just woke up and it's like, had these horrendous problems, where where I couldn't leave the house comfortably, where I was having to, double up on pads, and, I mean, it was really bad, so I don't wanna get too graphic, but it really affected my quality of life, and, um, I felt, of course, I'm 50, so if I were to backtrack those years, that was 15 years ago, I don't feel the conversation is as open as it is now. I didn't really have any support to go to or turn to.
Hmm.
So, the even when I think about it, Googling was not even really a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just I kind of felt pretty much on my own and wasn't comfortable reaching out to other older members of my family, women in my family. So yeah, I love that the conversation is changing and that were helping that. But I do remember that time and going to the doctor and just feeling, I basically was told, well, you're getting older, which quite frankly, at 36, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really feel like I was yet qualified for that conversation.
Right.
And then basically it was just something I was going to have to get used to.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of there and just feeling totally uh, lo- deflated and lost and not really knowing where to turn. So,
That's a common story.
yeah. Yeah.
So let's work to change that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. If there is anybody who can get something from us having this conversation and can talk to their doctor, I just think it's just all for the
For
best.
sure.
So, yeah. So let's say that it's me 15 years ago, and I'm going to go talk to my doctor. Do you have some pointers that you could give to me or to others who are in that situation?
Absolutely. So, I guess what I want your listeners to know is that you don't necessarily need to go to your doctor.
Mm,
You can travel through this life phase. 20% of women report absolutely no issues. Their period stops. That's that. And that's fantastic. And for the other 80% of women, the experiences can range from mild to medium to severe. So, what I would encourage you to do is, first of all, have a conversation with your physician and book a separate appointment for that, because it's a heavy conversation. Sometimes it could be
right.
something that don't bring it up at the tail end of when you're there for something else, because you may end up walking out feeling dismissed. The doctor doesn't have
Mhm.
time to address all your concerns on top of another appointment. So when you're getting ready for that doctor's appointment, I do have some tips, and one of them is something that you can start, in advance, and that is keeping track of your symptoms.
Mm.
Sorry, I just used the word symptoms, but that's okay.
It's all right. We'll dismiss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep track of your experiences and what you're going through, because your physician is going to have questions. Physicians are scientists. They love data, right?
Mm,
So they're going to want to know, is this something that's happened to you once, or is this something that's been ongoing for 6 or 12 months? And sometimes you can't remember, when you get in there and you're kind of a little bit anxious about the
yeah.
appointment, and they start to go through all the questions, like, how many drinks do you have a week, right? And all of a sudden I'm thrown off.
Right.
What do I write down? Do I write down that I drink every day, or you know
Right.
and
Right.
so it's really important that if you can list those experiences in advance and take that on a piece of paper or an app or on your iPhone or whatever that is, so that you can refer to it during the conversation with your doctor. I think that's really important.
Mm,
The second thing might be to list out some questions that you have. And those questions could be, about what you're experiencing right now or in recent months, or it could be questions that you might have about the future. It could be, you might draw upon conversations that you've had with your mother or your sisters, and then want to ask your physician how that might impact you. So
mhm.
list out your questions, and then now, this one's interesting. I think it's, getting informed before your doctor's appointment
Mhm.
can be also a blessing and a curse.
Right.
So, when I say get
Right.
informed, I don't necessarily mean going to Dr. Google and printing off every article that you find, because you know where that's going to lead.
Mhm.
But it's really important to be informed, to be an empowered patient, to go into that conversation knowing what you want out of it. What do
Mhm.
you want as an outcome of that appointment? Are you looking for just to have a chat with your doctor, or are you looking for a fix it? Are you looking for a
Mhm.
prescription or a referral to a specialist? It's also important to be informed about what that doctor has in his or her toolkit.
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
if you're looking for suggestions, let's say on vitamins or supplements that you could be taking, your physician may or may not have that expertise. Many GPs don't have a lot of nutritional or supplementation advice. They might have some basic,
True.
but they might
Right.
not have something that's going to meet your expectations or your current needs. So I think it's really important just to be informed about, who is the practitioner in front of you and what do they have to offer.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
The fourth tip that I would suggest is practice telling your story. I believe that we can't necessarily change the medical culture, although I'd like to try. But, we can change how we tell our story. So I'll give you an example based on your personal experience, Liz. I mean, if you go into your first doctor appointment and you say something like, they walk in and they say, "Why are you here?" Or "How can I help
Right.
you today?" And you say, "Oh,
Right.
I'm here because I have heavy periods." And your doctor
Mm-hmm.
immediately goes to their training. Let's say they don't have any personal or firsthand experience. They immediately in their head recall a list of perimenopause experiences and go, "Oh, it's common for a woman to have heavy periods in perimenopause." So
Right.
they may quickly say, "Oh, that's just part of being a woman," or "That's just part of the aging process," or "That's normal." And the woman is left sitting there saying, "I don't feel normal. What
Exactly.
do I do next?" So when I say practice telling your story, physicians need to hear how it is not normal for you. So you might say something like, "My period has always been regular and it's always been something I've been able to handle. Now that I'm 36, I've noticed in the last 6 months that the bleeding is so heavy that it's impacting my ability to carry out my day. I'm
Mm.
not comfortable going to work for 10 days out of the month. I'm not able to exercise," right? And then you have that
Right.
physician's attention and they're looking at you and saying, there's something here that perhaps we need to investigate so that this woman can have her quality of life back.
Right. Yeah, I can just in the way that you're describing that, I can remember that was exactly my story where I actually had gone in, I think it was just a regular checkup as well, like a regular yearly
Mm-hmm.
checkup, and then that's when I mentioned the problems I was having,
Yes.
and I didn't really go into how it was affecting my quality of life, and, yeah, I think I was expecting him to have, like, this magic crystal ball and just tell me, what I wanted to hear,
Yeah, they're
so
doctors, they're not magicians.
no, they're not.
Yeah. So we have to keep that in mind. And it doesn't take that much longer. Hopefully in that example I just gave you, it doesn't take that much longer to tell your story and position it in a way that's going to have the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, right.
And I guess the final tip that I would offer is I don't think it's all that common, but it's to be supported. So take your partner, your spouse, your husband, take your sister, take a friend to your doctor's appointment with you. I don't know how many times I've heard conversations amongst women, and you know how you say, "Oh, this is happening," and then somebody has an idea, right? So they're like, "Well, did you
Mhm.
have your thyroid checked? Well, did they ask you this? Well, I tried this.
Yeah.
What did your doctor recommend that?" And
Right.
it's very, it can be overwhelming and confusing. And so I recommend that for this appointment that you've set aside, to be proactive about your midlife health, that you take
Mm.
someone along with you. They can take notes for you. They can help you digest the information afterwards,
Mhm.
and let them know going in, what their role is. You
Mhm.
say to your girlfriend, "You're not here to say anything. All I want you to do is to take notes for me."
Yeah.
And that's really, really helpful. And I don't think enough of us do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and plus I think it's just good for I don't know, it's just to me, I think about where I was at age 36 and then trying to explain that what I was experiencing to my then husband.
Hmm.
It would have been helpful to have him in there from a medical standpoint, just so that he could get the full concept of what was going on as well.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
that,
it's great if you can take your partner or your spouse, but
mhm,
they're going to be the first. If you're in that relationship, they're going to be the first person that when you walk in the door says, "Okay, so what did the doctor say?"
exactly.
And I don't know about you, but for me, I mean, I need notes to refer to. So either they're my own notes or the notes that my sister or my girlfriend takes for me, or if your husband can't join you on the appointment, it's just better for everyone, and that's part of the whole process. You don't have to do this alone.
Right. Yeah. Well, what would you say if, um, and I don't want to even use my experience because
Okay.
I did well. I want to use it, but I did not go through these five steps. Okay,
Yes.
so my my whole story is I went in, told the doctor I got put on birth control pills, very strong ones that helped for a while, but it was affecting other things. So I didn't feel like I was getting the support that I need. So I was going to a gynecologist. And then so I asked around, tried another gynecologist. I was sent through this doctor at least did a lot of tests
Hmm.
because of the amount of bleeding I was having. And, went through, yeah, like a battery of tests, still more birth control
Mm.
pills. Um, Things calmed down for me. This is interesting when I'm thinking back on it because things did kind of calm down for me in my early 40s. Like things started to kind of, uh, you know, obviously my hormones were going through another, dip or phase or whatever. So things kind of leveled out for me for a little bit. And then about my mid 40s, it started happening again and with a vengeance. So at this time, there was more discussion around bioidentical hormones, and there were more books to read and
Yes.
and more to look up on. So I was actually just knowing that I was, I mean, the age was there. I knew I was like, okay, well, I'm in my 40s now, and um, doing my own research and found another doctor. So by this time now, I've gone to probably four different doctors until found one really that wanted to work with me because I was still experiencing, nope, I don't believe in
Mm.
hormone replacement. And so, do you have any advice for the woman that feels like she's not getting supported? I don't know that what I'm saying is I don't know that my story is really a good story to reflect on.
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. First of all, it's okay to seek a second opinion.
Mm,
Doctors themselves often seek second opinions. So
right.
don't feel like you're offending that doctor or that it's not within your right. It's totally within your right. You are the only person really that can be your best health advocate.
Mm,
So definitely do that. On the flip side, I would just say be cautious. Don't fire your doctor too prematurely.
mhm.
And part of the work that we're trying to do at Menopause Chicks, Liz, is to empower women to ask the questions.
Right.
So why don't you believe in bioidentical hormones? I'd want to like
Right.
dig into that as opposed to just say, oh, and walk out, with
Mhm.
confusion or frustration. Or when a doctor is recommending a particular procedure, maybe it's birth control pills, let's use that as an example, then what are the questions that a woman should be asking when that happens, as opposed to just walking out and having the prescription filled? So you might want to say something like, is this the lowest dose possible?
Mm,
Are there any other options that we can consider?
Right.
Can you please tell me what our treatment plan or what our exit strategy is? I find this is, very uncommon for us to ask a doctor, well, so is this a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan? What will, when I go off the birth control, what will life look like for me then? So
Right.
what's our exit strategy? You might want to ask your physician, might want to carry a list with you. You want to ask about, should I have my thyroid checked? What about bone density? What about my cholesterol? You really need to, it has to be a two-way conversation.
Right. Right. Which really is a totally different way, I think, of looking at our own healthcare.
Well, physicians want to partner with us. They really do. And
Yeah.
so how do we step up and, provide that half of the partnership? Because like we said, they are not magicians and they are not mind readers.
Right.
And they're not privy to the conversations or the experiences that we have in our homes, in our day-to-day lives. They just get to see a very, very thin slice, a 7 to 10 minute slice of our lives when we're sitting in front of them. So you really have to make the most of that appointment.
Right. Now, earlier in our conversation, you mentioned nutrition and, talking to your doctor about that.
Yes.
So obviously, there are other things we can do. And I know that actually you are a proponent of this. There are other things and other ways that we can, get supported around what we are experiencing. Would you mind touching on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up because
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the experience of going to see our doctor or healthcare professional. I believe that that is one member of the health team. So I talk about who do you want on your midlife health team? Do you want your family doctor? Are you interested in having a naturopath on your health team? Are you interested in having some consulting around nutrition? The list is endless. There's massage
Right.
therapy and chiropractic. And you have to look internally and say, this is who I want on my team. I
Mm-hmm.
am interested in upping my nutrition. I'm interested in looking at vitamins and supplements. Where can I get that information to support
Mm-hmm.
my midlife journey? I would like to try acupuncture. I've heard that it has some positive benefits for hot flashes. That's something that really sits well with my values. So where can I get a recommendation for an acupuncturist or yoga or whatever? So
Right.
it's quite a wide list. And I list all these things because I'm interested in having those people on my healthcare team.
Right. Right. But I love actually that you brought that up because I feel, and this is just my opinion, but with westernized medicine, we are really quick to jump on, the wagon of, just write me a prescription
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll be fine. And really there is such a wide variety that we could be tapping into and different, and it's not right for everybody, but if we're open to that, why not explore that?
I think it's a question of not like it's not an or question, it's an and question.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's not do I want to see my doctor or do I want to see a nutritionist? I think it's an and,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
that's going back to the earlier comment about you really need to know what the healthcare professional has in their toolkit.
Mhm.
Right? So you may not
Right.
go to your doctor for nutritional guidance. You are not going to go to your registered dietitian for birth control prescription, right? You
Mm.
have to know what's in their toolkit
Right. Right.
and leverage that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I swear I think I swear every time you and I talk, Shirley, I'm like, "Oh, I need to add someone else to my toolkit." So, and I have added yoga. I have added nutritional support, and now I'm still experiencing, of course, I'm post-menopause now, so I'm gonna kind of complete my cycle of my story, mid-40s, I ended up having to have pretty close to an emergency hysterectomy, full hysterectomy, due to the experiences I was having. I was severely anemic, and things had just progressed very downhill very quickly. So I feel like I feel like I was kind of thrown into menopause without being prepared for it. It
Yes.
was, it wasn't something, yeah, and that's probably a whole nother conversation we could have, because there were a lot of there's a lot of emotions going on with that, and things that I realize now looking back on that I wasn't prepared to handle on my own, but I did. So,
Yes.
um, so now that I'm post-menopause and feel like I've kind of come out of that fog, and that it was kind of a fog, an emotional fog. I am looking at, okay, what I'm not, I'm taking bioidentical hormones, not taking, it's a gel that I use. So, um, but also looking at, all right, I'm still not feeling myself and I want to feel better. And so what does that look like for me? So, looking into yoga and nutritional support, and now kind of looking at more of a holistic health plan approach. And so I really love that you spoke into that. And I think I was going somewhere with my story and I completely lost my train of thought. So
Well, good. I mean, good for you for being proactive. And if I could just inject sort of one more
yeah.
mantra, and it's something I learned on the very first day of researching perimenopause. I went to a local women's clinic, and I thought, oh, I'm there to learn everything there is to know about our sex hormones, and new notebook and pen in hand. And the doctor, she stood up and she said, at the beginning of the last century, women lived to be 50, and menopause was a non-event. And now we expect to live to be 100.
Right.
Except women are filling up retirement communities and seniors' homes with osteoporosis and dementia-related diseases. And it just struck me like a brick, because
Wow.
yes, we are talking today about midlife, and we're talking about how to navigate perimenopause. And some days I can tell you that's all you can think about or handle.
Right. Hmm.
But what is it that you are going to do today in the broader picture that's going to impact your quality of life down the road? And so I think, paying attention, like you said, like you're doing, Liz, with nutrition and yoga, those are things that are definitely going to pay off. It's an
Hmm.
investment in your health.
Right. Yeah, and that I think I have to laugh just because I'm thinking about so another thing of menopause is noticing those times where you weren't paying attention, say 20, 30 years ago. Like, I have some bad sun damage now on my skin, and I think, wow, if I would have just used sunscreen back when I was,
Right.
20 years old, I wouldn't have this. And so I like to kind of call on that and think, okay, what can I do now so that in 20 to 30 years, I'm not looking back on now and thinking, gee, Liz, why didn't you just, you know, XYZ, whatever.
Yes.
Why didn't you eat better? Why didn't you cut out that sugar? Why didn't you, practice yoga? So, or weightlifting or anything, I mean, for our health, I feel like this is the time in our life when we can finally start focusing on ourselves a little bit more,
Absolutely.
because our kids are a little bit are older, or we're just have this realization that, yeah, we can do this now, and you and I can be talking in 23 or 20 to 30 years on how we can be rocking out our 80s. So
I can't wait.
I know, me too. I'm gonna have to change the name of the show though.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Shirley, I want to point out too to our listeners, you have an online community on Facebook. Your not your midlife, that's my online community, your Menopause Chicks community. And what a wonderful just a support system that is in there. And women are able to come in and say, hey, I'm experiencing this. Anyone else? And I feel sometimes I see the conversations that are going on in there, and it just, I don't know, it's just such a wonderful feeling to see women supporting one another that way. And so I want to commend you on that, and also invite other women. I hope you're fine with me
Yes.
inviting our listeners to join you in that, because it's a wonderful community.
Yes. Thank you. I am so, like, every day I'm just so encouraged by our the Menopause Chicks private online community on Facebook, because we're talking about going to see your doctor, but sometimes we're just looking for validation.
Right.
We're looking for another, a female friend to say, I hear you, sister. You are not alone.
Right.
And I don't know how many times I've typed that phrase, you are not alone, but it can really give us the juice or the energy that we need to get through that particular day or this particular time in our life. So, yeah, thank you
Right.
for bringing it up.
Yeah, definitely. So I will have a link to that community in the show notes. And I wanted to point out too that if you join that community, in the files, you actually have a guide cracking open the conversation with your doctor.
Yes.
And it's a PDF that you can download. There's great information in here. There's actually a link to you were talking about keeping track of the experiences that you have. I think
There's a
there's a
link
link.
to a tracker. Yep.
Yeah, there's a link to a tracker. There's some book recommendations. It's just full of wonderful information. So I will definitely encourage anyone who goes over to your community to download that to get more information on the conversation we've actually had today. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Shirley, thank you so much for joining me and just just having this upfront conversation and giving the listeners some great tips on talking to their doctor. And I hope that we get to talk again before we're in our 80s,
Absolutely. Count on
but
it.
just looking forward to more ways that we can help women just really enjoy this time of their life.
Thank you, Liz. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Shirley, for sharing ways we can have an open conversation with our doctors and take ownership of our own health care. You will be able to find all the links mentioned in this episode over at the show notes at midlifeschmidlife.com/menopause. Each week during the Midlife Toolbox series, I'm going to recommend an audiobook that is a good companion for the episode. And this week's book is The Hormone Cure by Sarah Gottfried. Now, Dr. Gottfried believes you won't find the cure in the bottom of a pill bottle. She is a specialist in functional and integrative therapies and has a 3-step treatment strategy based on a 10-year study of cutting-edge techniques and ancient treatments, validated by current medical research. She also provides scripts to use to open a conversation with your doctor based on her work. And thanks to Audible, you can get a free trial as well as a free download of the book by heading over to midlifeschmidlife.com/book. This week, I really want to encourage you to head over to the show notes for this show at midlifeschmidlife.com/menopause. There are the links that were mentioned here. There's also a link so that you can connect with Shirley over at her Menopause Chicks Facebook community, as well as the Midlife Schmidlife Sisterhood. Having the support and opening up the conversation for this time and place in our lives is the start to fully stepping into who we are meant to be.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.